So I lost the audio for this somehow, but I'll just say what I'm doing. I'm using Cass as my playing piece, and my villain is Metatron, which means all the books I read must be translated works, unless they're random. So there's that. First roll, I can't read what the dice says, my screen is too small, but I got a character card, a red card there, and that's Kevin, which means a BIPOC author, and I'll tell you what the books are later. Next roll takes me to blue, which is a prop card, and this is flannel, so I have to do a random genre generator. Then we roll again onto another character card. This time I got Gabriel. The card's upside down. That means to start a new series, because he's a trickster god and tricking me into start a new series. Okay, then we have another character card. Eileen. This means a disabled author, because Eileen is deaf. Okay. Then we have a library card, and I'm actually going to the library this month. This is Tulpa, a graphic novel, because you create images. That's just the reasoning I had in my head for that. Next move is another library card. And this is Alpha, which is the first book in a series, and Alpha is the original of a monster. On the card, it's the original vampire. Okay, and another library card. It's good that I saved all my library visits for this one. And I got Deity, which means a book on religion. That's a picture of God there. Then I got Angel Tablet. Sorry, that's an intimidating read. Because the Angel Tablet is intimidating. It can only be read by certain people. Then we got a prop. This is the Colt, which means I point at a random book on my shelf, like it's a gun. Pull the trigger, read that book. Okay, then we have another blue card. This is another prop. This is Dean's Amulet. I close my eyes and pick. I don't know why I picked that one for that. I guess I needed more props. Then we got another library card. Hellhounds. This means an animal on the cover, because hellhounds are dogs. Then we have another character card, and it's Cass! Yay! This means read the world, because Cass can travel around the world. I have a list for that. And then I didn't get right to the end, so I have another library card, and that is Angel, a random number generator in fiction. And don't ask me why that hits angels. And I just rolled to get to the end of the board. So that's the end of the game. So, I'm now here to talk about the books that I picked out from these prompts, and some other books that I just happened to come across in the library. So let's talk about those library books. So the first book I don't have in my possession yet. I put it on hold. It has to be taken from another library in the province and transported to my location so that I could read it. And that was the book for Hellhounds with an animal on the cover. And that's going to be Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. This was translated from the Polish by Jennifer Croft. Now, I really did not like Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, but I'm willing to give her another try. So this is a series of short stories, which will hopefully be more palatable for me, including one about Chopin's heart, posthumously being transported, a woman poisoning her high school sweetheart, and the disappearing and reappearing of a family, like actually just like randomly disappearing, not just like running away, seems to be the implication from what I've read. Yeah. So the next one is Alpha, first book in a series, and I decided to hop on the bandwagon with everyone else and get Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, translated from the Japanese by Jeffrey Trusselot, however you pronounce that. And I'm sure like everyone is reading this, like across the different booktube cliques, kind of like the different groups. Everyone's been reading this book. Okay, then for Deity, a book on religion, I decided to go with Leo Tolstoy's The Gospel in Brief, translated from the Russian by Isabel Florence Hapgood. And so Leo Tolstoy was actually very progressive and would still be considered progressive Christian to these days. So he decided to rewrite the Gospel. I'm just going to tell you on the back here. He sets aside such issues as Jesus' genealogy and divinity, or whether Jesus in fact walked on water. Instead, he focuses on the words and teachings of Jesus, stripped of what Tolstoy regarded as the church's distortions and focus on dogma and ritual. The result is a work that emphasizes the necessity of maintaining one's spiritual condition in a chaotic and indifferent world. And another goal of mine that's not decided by the game board is to read a book from the Bible each month. And because I'm reading this gospel, I decided to also read the Gospel of Matthew. Okay, then for random number generator, I was able to go through the online catalog and do this randomly. I came across Harvest by Tess Gerritsen, and these random selections aren't these random selections aren't affected by the villain card because it's random. I can't put that other thing on top of it unless it's easy to do, but in this case it wasn't easy to do, so this isn't translated. And this is a medical thriller about organ harvesting, I believe. That makes sense from the cover there. It's published in 1996. I'm expecting this to just be like just fun and like disturbing. And then lastly, for Tulpa, I had to read a graphic novel, and I got Food Wars by Yuto Tsukudo, art by Shun Siaki, and Yuki Murasaki is a contributor. I believe Yuki Murasaki is the chef. This is translated by Adrian Beck from the Japanese, and it's a manga about food and a guy going to culinary school. So I'm really interested in like the Food Network and eating, obviously, and all that kind of stuff. So there's that. Okay, now on to the character cards. The first one I got is Eileen's, and for that I chose The Day He Himself Shall Wipe Away My... Sorry, this title is a mouthful. Okay, The Day He Himself Shall Wipe My Tears Away by Zenzaburo Oi. Zenzaburo Oi recently passed away, and hearing about him on the news made me want to check him out. So this is the book, and it's hard to find a translated work by someone who's also disabled. So he's the father of a severely disabled man, and the story is affected by that. So his son is Hikari Oi, who is a composer, who has autism. He's visually impaired, he's developmentally delayed, and he has epilepsy, and there's a whole other long list of disabilities he's facing. Oh, and by the way, this is translated from the Japanese by John Nathan. So, from the Wikipedia page, Hikari was an influence on writing this, and it's about a man dying of cancer that he may or may not have imagined, but it's also about the relationship between fathers and their disabled sons. I'll be reading that on ebook. Then we got Cass, and that's from my Read the World challenge, and I chose Equatorial Guinea. Why not? And so the book is called La Bastarda by Trifonia, Melibea, Obonu. And this is translated from the Spanish by Lawrence Schmiel. So this is the first novel actually by a woman to be translated to English from Equatorial Guinea. It's about an orphan who enlists the help of her community to help find her father and rebel against Fang tribe culture. And it features LGBTQ plus representation as well. Then we have Kevin, and that's a BIPOC author. And I chose Banana, Yoshimoto's Lizard. And this is translated from the Japanese by Anne Sheriff. And I loved Hard Boiled and Hard Luck by her, so I decided to pick up more by her. So these are more short stories. I believe there's 6 in here. Some of them are about shape-shifting strangers, a young woman escaping a cult, and a woman who can heal people with her mind. So we're getting into some weird stuff. And then we have Gabrielle, and that is to start a new series. And so this is interesting. I picked up The Dwarves by Markus Heitz, and this was originally written in German and English, so I guess he translated the German parts himself, is what I believe has happened. I couldn't find any more information than that. So it is semi-translated. Yeah, so this is about a dwarf, assuming he's going to be the one on the cover. He's the only dwarf in this kingdom of men, and he gets sent by them to the dwarf kingdom, and war happens. It's dwarfs, they fight. It's awesome. Okay, and now we're into the prop cards. So flannel was to get a random genre generator, and the genre I got was historical fiction, and so I got The Death of Artemio Cruz by Carlos Fuentes. This was translated from the Spanish by Alfred McAdam, and this is like a Mexican classic. It's about a corrupt man on his deathbed and him looking back on his life, beginning with the Mexican Revolution, his thoughts on dying, religion, history, that kind of stuff. And I'm surprised I haven't read this one yet, because I loved Latin American literature, and like I was assigned this in school, and it was one of the ones I didn't read. Okay. Then we have The Angel Tablet, an intimidating book. And for this, I'm going to continue my reading of The Grey House. I did span it out over 3 months. That was planned. So that is an intimidating book. That's why I've given myself 3 months to finish it. It's translated from the Russian by Yuri Mikazov. I just have it over there. I didn't want to get it. And this is about a group home boarding school for kids with physical disabilities. And they shun the outside. They're a very insular community, and they have different groups within the house, and students start dying. Things start going awry, and the students look to the house to help with these things. It's less about plot, it's more about the characters. Yeah, which is another reason why it takes a long time to get through, because it's very slow. But it's worth it, it's good, it's a reread for me. So yeah. Okay. Then I got Dean's Amulet, which was to close my eyes and pick. And I got The Trouble with Islam Today by Irshad Manji. And this is about her wanting to reform Islam to be more progressive, to foster a competition of ideas, to empower women, to respect religious minorities, and all that kind of stuff. So that will be an interesting look. I'm used to progressive Christianity, so it'll be interesting to see progressiveness in another religion. And the last card pick was The Cult, which was to point at random. And I picked up The Guide by RK Narayan, and to be honest, I want to read this one because it was mentioned in House of Leaves. That's not the only reason. It actually sounds interesting. There's a lot of books recommended in House of Leaves that I haven't picked up or haven't bought. This one I did. And so this one is about a man who's released from prison, and when he's out there he pretends to be a religious guide, and it's a book about ending up what you're pretending to be. Kind of like a caution tale, or maybe a moral tale, or maybe, you know, like, hey, pretend to be something until you actually are it. I will find out as I read it what it is actually about. So of course there are books that are not on the board game that I'm going to play. One actually fulfills a goal for this year, and that is to read 6 of the Vinyl Cafe books, and so I got this one, Stories from Vinyl Cafe. I believe this is actually the first one that was released. So this is by Stuart McLean. He's a Canadian author, and oh, that's cool. Sorry, I just like that there's a little town on the book. Anyway, so it's slice of life stories, very short stories, humorous stories, about this couple, Dave and Morley. Dave owns a record store. Morley, I don't know exactly what Morley does. he concentrated a lot on Dave, to be honest. Even like stories with Morley's perspective are about Dave at some points. So yeah, they're a married couple and they have 2 kids, and just talks about, you know, different things that happen in their life. Okay, and then of course I went to the library, and this is why I was hesitant about going to the library, and I had to pick up some more books. So let me just show you those. They're mostly comics, so it's not so bad. I got this, The Collected Topi. I've read one of his works already, The Collected Topi. I can't remember which volume it was, but this is volume 4. You don't have to read them in any order. This is The Cradle of Life, and it is black and white comics, full page, beautiful books to look at. This is 5 Tales of Folklore set in colonial era Africa, Australia, and the South Pacific. And Sergio Topi himself is Italian, so it fits in with the villain, and it was translated by Jeremy Malol. Okay. Then I got Len and Cub, A Queer History by Meredith J. Batt and Dusty Green. And this is interesting because I was in a supermarket and they had this little 1-page newspaper, and it was about queer history in New Brunswick. And Len and Cub are really only known because they had a camera and took pictures of themselves. So they were, you know, lots of photographs to look at here. And so it's a history of their relationship, I believe, which seems pretty cool. I saw that and I was just like, what? These names sound familiar. And then I realized what it was. And then I have some more graphic novels here. We have Ikigami, The Ultimate Limit, Volume 1 by story and art by Motoro Mimis. And I don't know if there is a translator listed here. Translation by John Weary. English adaptation by Christina Blacher. This is about people not appreciating life enough, so the government starts issuing random notices to citizens that within 24 hours they're going to be assassinated. And they're hoping that will encourage people to appreciate life more. Yeah, that seems really interesting. I just noticed there's an explicit content warning there too. I'm looking forward to it. And then on a totally opposite note, this was in the YA section, My Brother's Husband by Gengoro Tagami, and this is about this is another manga. This is about a Canadian man showing up on this Japanese family's doorstep and says, hey, I was your brother's husband, he's passed away. Yeah, so that sounds quite fun. I've seen this around on BookTube a few years ago, and when I saw it on the shelf, oh, it's a clown. I love clowns. I decided to pick it up. Okay. Then we have 2 books of poetry. The first one is The Narrow Cabinet, A Zombie Chronicle by Asa Boxer, and I just had to pick it up. Poetry about zombies. So this is about how corruption, sinkhole of corruption and instability that leads to a zombie apocalypse. Yes, like that's all I need to know to read a book of poetry about zombies. And then this is Indian Coping Mechanisms, Notes from the Field by Billy Ray Belcourt. And this is, oh, see, like there's some really cool poetry and some pictures in there. What's that say? Oh, it's upside down. Restaurant. Yeah, poetry about, let's see what it says here. Political demands of queerness, mainstream portrayals of Indigenous life, love, and its discontents, and the limits and uses of poetry as a vehicle for Indigenous liberation. So, pretty cool. And the last book, I think so. Let me just double check. Oh, yeah, and then I have comics. More comics to talk about. But the last book with... I don't think there's pictures in here. No, it's just words. Okay, the last book without pictures. Here's Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars, A Dangerous Trans Girl's Confabulous Memoir by Kei Ching Tom. This is not an actual memoir. This is a novel, fictional book. And This is about a trans girl who runs away from home and joins a group of trans femmes, vigilantes. Vigilantes, trans, sounds pretty cool. Yeah, so look forward to that. There's also like poetry in here as well. There's a line, so poetry there. Okay, comics, real quick, I'll just go through them. Mother of Madness, I picked this up because it's written by Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, so pretty cool. Savage Circus by Brendan Columbus. I think it's horror, pit out by, who's the publisher? Heavy Metal Magazine. Yeah, and then, oh god, so there's this really weird comic name, The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt, by Toru Toba. Kingdom Come by Mark Waid, it's a DC comic. And then Bob's Burgers, medium rare. Yeah, and then I just noticed I didn't pull this book off my shelf. Is it within reach somewhere? No. I haven't been keeping up on my classics. I wanted to read 12 of them. I think I've read like one. And we're 4 months into the year. So I decided to read Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I'm just noticing that on my list, so I'm prepared to talk about it. It's a classic Virginia Woolf. That's what you need to know. I also want to show from the library, I got some movies. I decided to take advantage of that. This is a stage production of Hamlet starring David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. I've seen this. I love it. It's the whole play. It's 3 hours long, but it's amazing. Just look up the To Be or Not to Be scene with him in it on YouTube. It's great. I just went randomly. I was just like, I'm just going to pick a random row and look at a random shelf and just like pick something that sticks out to me. So I'm like, I have a weird collection here. This is Chirac or Chirac, Spike Lee movie. This I picked up, I read the back. It's an adaptation, modern day adaptation of the ancient Greek play Lysistrata by Aristophanes. So I was just like, cool, we got two play adaptations here. Another adaptation, I guess. This is Appleseed Ex Machina. This is based on the manga series Ghost in the Shell. I just thought that was cool. And then this one is called Infest Wisely, which is a lo-fi science fiction movie in 7 episodes. This movie was made on a $700 budget, which sounds interesting. This is, okay, a new chewable nanotechnology lets people take pictures with their eyes and cures cancer. But the early adopters find out it's hard to uninstall something after it's spread through their bloodstream. It just, I love, like, D movies, D-list movies. So that, I believe, I'm looking around, is it for my April TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these and what book you are looking forward to reading the most in April, and thank you for watching.